Captured in a rare moment of calm, these men stand side by side, their faces steady, their thoughts likely miles away. Behind them, the machinery of war looms silent, a reminder of the burden they carried each day. Yet in their expressions, there's something deeper, a quiet understanding shared between those who have seen too much and said too little. This photo speaks not of glory, but of endurance, of people holding on to composure amid chaos, finding fragments of strength in each other when the world offered none. Two men stand face to face under the weight of history, not as strangers, but as leaders bound by duty and circumstance. Their conversation, captured in stillness, carries the gravity of decisions that would echo far beyond that moment. In the sharp daylight, you can almost feel the tension between respect and responsibility, between confidence and quiet doubt. This image reminds us that war isn't only fought in the noise of battle, it's also fought in moments like this, where choices are made with steady hands and heavy hearts. The face of a man who has seen too much and said too little. His posture may speak of discipline, but his eyes reveal something deeper, the quiet fatigue of someone carrying the weight of choices, losses, and memories that never fade. History often remembers uniforms and medals, but it's the human behind them that tells the truest story. This photograph captures that silent moment between duty and reflection, where a man stands not as a symbol, but as a reminder of the cost of it all. A simple handshake, yet it carries the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Respect, relief, perhaps even the quiet understanding that both men have endured more than they can ever say. In a world torn apart by conflict, gestures like this reminded people that dignity could still exist, even when everything else was uncertain. This image isn't about victory or defeat, it's about humanity. Two individuals, shaped by duty and time, meeting in a brief moment of connection that transcends the uniforms they wear. Amid the chaos of battle, moments like this reveal a different side of war: quiet focus in the midst of noise. Orders being written, messages sent, decisions made that would shape the fate of many. Behind every move and every note taken were people doing their best to bring order to the unimaginable. Their faces tell stories of fatigue and determination, proof that even in destruction, there existed discipline, teamwork, and a fragile sense of purpose. History remembers battles, but photos like this remind us of the human effort holding everything together behind the scenes. In the stillness of the battlefield, even steel and fire depended on human hands. The man in this photo doesn't just hold a shell, he holds the weight of choices, of moments that decide the line between survival and destruction. The dust, the exhaustion, and the silence around him all tell a story of endurance more than aggression. War often hides its humanity behind machines and noise, but images like this remind us that every weapon, every movement, was carried out by people tired, thoughtful, and aware of the cost that came with each action. In his eyes, you can see the weight of responsibility, a man shaped by the choices and consequences of a time that tested every soul. The medals may speak of valor, but the face tells another story, one of endurance, duty, and the silent cost of leadership. This image captures more than history, it captures humanity caught between pride and pain. Beneath the uniform was a person navigating impossible decisions, standing in the crossroads of power, purpose, and fate. Two aviators stand before their aircraft, faces calm, eyes carrying the quiet confidence of men who've looked fear in the face and kept flying. Behind them rests not just a machine of war, but a symbol of courage, innovation, and the fragile line between life and loss. There's something hauntingly peaceful about this moment, a pause before takeoff, before uncertainty returns to the sky. It reminds us that history isn't only made in battle, but also in the stillness between, when humans choose to rise above, despite knowing the risks. Under the blazing sun and endless desert sky, they gathered a moment of focus before the storm. Dust clung to their boots, maps rustled in the wind, and every face carried the weight of decisions yet to come. Leadership wasn't just about command here, it was about endurance, about standing tall when the world around you demanded more than strength. This photograph captures not just soldiers, but people suspended between duty and destiny. In the quiet before the battle, they looked toward the horizon, uncertain, determined, and deeply human. A single map, a few voices, and the vast unknown ahead. This was how history was decided. In the heart of the desert, strategy and survival became the same thing. Every line drawn on that paper represented hope, risk, and the lives of countless men who followed those paths into uncertainty. You can almost feel the tension in this moment, a mixture of focus, fatigue, and faith. This image reminds us that behind every plan and command were human hearts beating against the weight of impossible choices. Even in the darkest chapters of history, there were moments like this: small, quiet pieces of light. A soldier and his dog, caught in a frame that speaks more of love than war. Behind the uniform is a man who found comfort in the soft trust of a loyal companion, a reminder of home and the simple goodness still left in the world. This image is proof that even when surrounded by chaos, kindness and warmth can survive. Sometimes, it's not grand gestures that keep people going, it's moments like these, where hearts remember what peace feels like. In a world torn apart by war, compassion still found its place. This moment, one soldier tending to another, speaks louder than any victory or defeat. It reminds us that even in the trenches, humanity refused to die. Every bandage wrapped, every wound treated, was an act of quiet defiance against the cruelty of conflict. This image captures more than care, it captures courage of a different kind. The kind that chooses empathy over indifference, and hope over hate. Even when surrounded by destruction, the heart still found a way to heal. Sitting by the water, he seems distant not in body, but in thought. Perhaps reflecting on the quiet between storms, on the faces and memories that drift in and out like waves. His uniform might speak of command, but his eyes tell another story of exhaustion, reflection, and the longing for a moment of peace. This photograph captures a rare stillness, a pause in a life surrounded by motion, where for once, the war feels far away, and a man can simply be human again. Under the harsh sun, three men stand face to face, not just officers, but symbols of a moment when the fate of thousands rested on words spoken quietly between them. You can almost sense the gravity in their posture, the weight of decisions that would echo far beyond that dusty field. Behind the medals and uniforms were human beings navigating pride, exhaustion, and the unspoken knowledge that wars are never truly won. This photograph freezes an instant of history, one filled not only with strategy, but with humanity, vulnerability, and the silent understanding of how fragile power can be. A brief smile caught between the noise of engines and the weight of command. Behind the steel machines and crisp uniforms were people living moments that would soon turn into history. The calm before chaos, a photograph frozen in time, where confidence met uncertainty, and every decision carried the burden of countless lives. This image reminds us that history isn't made only on battlefields, but in the quiet seconds before action, when a man still has the space to breathe, to think, to be human. The silence between battles was often heavier than the fight itself. In moments like this, they sat shoulder to shoulder, exhausted, silent, and aware that tomorrow was never promised. The dirt on their faces wasn't just from the ground, but from days without rest, from carrying the weight of survival. You can almost feel the quiet bond between them, not built from words, but from everything they'd seen and endured together. In their stillness lies the story of countless soldiers who found brotherhood in the darkest places. They stand in the sunlight, their uniforms dusted by the same earth that has witnessed countless stories of courage and survival. Each face carries a mix of exhaustion and quiet strength, not heroes in their own eyes, but people trying to endure another day of a war that changed everything. In that moment, between orders and uncertainty, they found a strange calm, a pause in history where time itself seemed to hold its breath. This image reminds us that every soldier, no matter the side or uniform, faced the same fear, the same hope, and the same wish for the fighting to end. Humanity, even in its hardest hour, always found a way to show through. Even in times of conflict, friendship found a way to exist. These smiles, rare and fleeting, remind us that behind every uniform were human hearts trying to hold on to something normal. For a brief moment, laughter broke through the weight of war, turning fear into something lighter, even if just for a while. This photograph captures the side of history that often goes unseen, the small sparks of humanity that refused to go out, even when the world around them burned. It's a timeless reminder that connection is what truly keeps people alive through the darkest chapters. Two young faces in a world far older than their years. They stand in the mud and cold, trying to look brave, yet their eyes tell another story, one of exhaustion, uncertainty, and the quiet fear of what tomorrow might bring. The world around them was breaking apart, but inside, they were still just boys learning what it meant to survive. This image isn't just a glimpse into history, it's a reminder of the cost of conflict, of how youth and innocence were stolen long before their time. Their expressions speak louder than any textbook ever could. He stands with the weight of 1,000 choices in his eyes, a man shaped by discipline, burdened by duty, and caught in the tides of history. The uniform may tell one story, but his expression tells another: the silent cost of command, the loneliness of leadership, and the awareness that every decision can change countless lives. Time may blur the details, but moments like this remind us that history is never just black and white. It is made of people, of courage and conflict, of faith and fear. Behind every symbol and medal lies a human story, complex, imperfect, and deeply real. The engines behind them are silent, now relics of skies once filled with thunder. These men walk through the calm that follows storms, where victory and loss feel almost the same. Every dented wing, every scarred uniform tells a story not of glory, but of endurance. Behind the polished car and formal composure lies the quiet truth of war, that even triumph comes with ghosts. Time has faded the noise, but not the memory. The grass beneath their feet once trembled with the weight of history, and though the warplanes rest now, the echoes of what they carried still whisper through the wind. Amid the chaos of a world at war, there were still moments like this, simple, fragile, and pure. A soldier returns home for a brief embrace, his uniform worn by duty, his smile softened by love. In the child's small hands and the flowers he holds lies everything worth fighting for: innocence, hope, and the quiet wish for peace. This photograph reminds us that behind every uniform was a human heart, someone's father, brother, son, trying to hold on to pieces of normal life even as history shifted around them. It's not just a picture of war, it's a picture of what it means to come back, even for a moment, to love. In moments like this, leadership wasn't about medals or rank, it was about presence. You can almost feel the unspoken respect between them, forged not through words, but through shared survival. Behind the uniforms were men carrying the weight of decisions that shaped countless lives, standing together in a world that demanded courage at every step. This image captures more than a conversation, it captures the bond between those who led and those who followed, a quiet understanding that history is written not only in victory, but in the humanity that endured beneath the steel and dust. Amid the noise and chaos of battle, compassion still found a way to exist. In moments like this, courage wasn't only found on the front lines, it was in the hands that bandaged wounds, in the voices whispering comfort to the fallen. These medics carried no weapons of destruction, only faith in the value of a single human life. Every life they touched became a quiet victory against despair. This image isn't just about war, it's about mercy that refused to disappear, even when the world around them was burning. It's a reminder that humanity, no matter how fragile, has always been the strongest force of all. The desert sun burned down on faces carved by exhaustion and pride, men standing at the crossroads of history, unaware how the world would remember them. Every word spoken into that microphone carried more than strategy, it carried the weight of thousands of lives, the echo of decisions that would outlive them all. Behind the medals and sharp gazes were human beings caught between obedience and survival, between belief and consequence. This image freezes a moment of power, yet beneath the surface lies the quiet truth of every war, that no matter the uniform or nation, the cost of conflict always leaves its mark on the soul. Even in the middle of a war, moments like this remind us of something deeply human: connection. You can see it in their smiles, a quiet relief that for a brief instant, the world around them isn't filled with chaos but with shared laughter and trust. These faces carry the fatigue of endless days and sleepless nights, yet behind every tired eye is a spark of hope, a reminder that friendship can survive even the darkest chapters of history. Somewhere between the battles and the brokenness, they found reasons to smile, and that's what makes this image powerful. Not the medals, not the uniforms, but the simple act of choosing to stay human. In the ruins of a fallen city, these men stand surrounded by silence, not the kind that brings peace, but the kind that follows everything lost. You can almost feel the weight in their eyes, the exhaustion carved by endless days of struggle and disbelief. Behind the uniforms were hearts that had seen too much, a generation torn between duty and despair, watching the world they once knew crumble into dust. It's not just a photograph, it's a reminder of how fragile power, pride, and humanity can be when war takes hold. Every broken street tells a story of people who once dreamed, loved, and hoped for tomorrow. Amid the roar of engines and the chaos of movement, a quiet council unfolds. Maps in hand, these men stand at a crossroads of history, not heroes or villains in this instant, but weary minds trying to shape meaning from uncertainty. Each line on paper carried the weight of countless lives, each word an echo of choices that could not be undone. War was never just fought on fields, it was written in moments like this, where silence carried more consequence than any sound. Even in the quiet corners of war, humanity lingers. Here, a soldier kneels beside a small companion, a moment untouched by orders or battles. For a brief instant, the noise fades, there's only a man and a cat, sharing a fragile peace amid the chaos. Sometimes, it's not the victories that define history, it's these small, unguarded moments that remind us what was worth fighting for. A powerful moment of amphibious landing, soldiers charging through the surf, armored vehicles grinding forward, and warships looming like iron giants in the mist. Every step onto the shore was a test of nerve, the unknown waiting beyond the waves. Behind them, the sea roared, ahead, silence, danger, and duty. This is what courage looked like, not in words, but in movement, in momentum, in the will to advance even when fear followed every step.